is mentioned, 200 million. And the other issue, in Bangladesh, now there are millions of environmental displaced people. There are millions of people displaced because of the environmental reasons. And these are environmental refugees, definitely because of the soil erosion, because of salinity increase, and for many because of desertification. There are millions of environmentally displaced people in Bangladesh. But this is not yet an issue, cross-border issue. This is mainly internally displaced people. But if we cannot avert the situation, then it will definitely become a cross-border serious issue in future, not only with the neighboring countries, even with other countries. So that issue must be addressed, I mean, with the adequate attention. And if we don't do that, then the situation will be beyond our control.
Dr. Mahmood, thank you very much. So who knows how big it's going to be? We've just heard a very pessimistic view from the Minister of State from Bangladesh. What can we do, given that we're only 6 months away from Copenhagen, to try and make sure that this migration issue, whatever you call it, climate refugees, environmental, internally displaced people, gosh, that's a real mouthful. I don't see that one catching on. But that this issue is part of whatever it is agreed in Copenhagen? Craig?
Well, I think Copenhagen is now in the hands of the governments, and so getting to the governments is where you need to go. Though I heard a lot of talk today about the need for intensive media work, and I think that's extremely useful and helpful, the fact is Copenhagen is coming right down, and the preparations for Copenhagen are really almost in their final stages. So I think it's direct advocacy with governments right now that is going to have the most profound impact on Copenhagen. I have had extensive discussions with the U.S. government, for example, on this issue. I had extensive discussions with others. I know many of you in this room have had extensive discussions with respect to your own governments, and then on behalf of your own governments with other governments.
Absolutely.
And we just need to keep pressing very hard to ensure that these issues, that the adaptation issues are covered fully, and that there be some element of recognition of the need for increased disaster preparedness as well.
When you say covered fully, what would you like to see?
I think a funding mechanism is the critical component. If it ends up being we recognize that adaptation is necessary and we call upon the governments of the world to adapt and so forth, then I will take that piece of paper and it will do me no good whatsoever. If it comes with the funding mechanisms that make it possible for the countries that need the funding to engage in adaptation strategies, if it comes with the funding that's necessary to do those adaptation strategies, then I think that's meaningful. So at the end of the day, I will peruse through all the blah blah to get down to where is the money in this thing. And if there is no money at the end of the day for the countries that need to have the money and for the organizations that will work with them, the developmental organizations, IOM, whoever needs to work with the people to be able to achieve the results, then I will say Copenhagen will have been a failure.
Can I just ask you a yes or no question? Do you think you will see that money in any serious quantities?
I think we'll find a funding mechanism because I'm an eternal optimist, but I think it's not an easy thing. But look, we've made a lot of progress. There was a time when the climate change people as a whole viewed that any consideration of adaptation would siphon money away from the more critical issue of preventing the climate change itself. Now I think we've reached the stage where people accept the fact that we have to do both.
Yeah.
And Joro, what do you want to see in Copenhagen?
I would like to add that, again, I will call for a political will. Really, the government have to decide by themselves where they want to go, from what they are living right now as a consequence of the climate change or degradation of the environment. Because I think that all this political will have to be translated within a national, broader and inclusive framework of development. And you know how it works in the countries where resources are scarce. And it is most of the time the ministry, which is the most powerful, that take the most, I think, important part of the budget, of the national budget. But this needs to be addressed. This needs to be devoted some resources. And even if the government can count on the international community, I think that there is a little to do by themselves to show that they know what they want to do. What is lacking is the means to do it. And here I would like to add the issue of capacity building. We can have the money without having the knowledge to absorb the money in the program. So perhaps also we should look at how we can reinforce, strengthen the capacity of those governments who have a clear framework of integrating these mitigation things between climate change and development, climate change, migration, displaced person, and development. I think this is important also to note, and I would like to add it to what my colleague said.
Thanks, Njura. I know Mr. Kothari over here is very keen to have the mic from me, but before I give it to him, since he's already had his say to some extent, is there anybody else who is keen? Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa. In fact, this forum, I'm representing my president who was invited, but due to other equal important commitment, he was not able to attend. I'm the Minister of Environment and Tourism from Namibia. You have been posing so many questions, but my intervention might not necessarily be focused entirely on the questions that you have been posing, but specifically on the issue of immigration as a result of climate change. Whether it is permanent or temporary, for us is a big challenge, especially when one talks about Namibia, the impact of climate change and how it is bringing internal migration, though it can be termed to be temporary, is real. You all know that Namibia is known to be a dry country, but because of what is happening, the past 2 years we have experienced severe floods. And whether we are talking about the migration only targeting or maybe affecting the poor, what is on the ground, the impact of climate change does not have borders. So if it strikes in a town, it is affecting everybody, whether it's the business community, whether it is teachers, nurses, everyone who lives in that town, schools and everything. That's what we experienced in Namibia the past 2 years. To the extent that many people, including the business community in the affected towns, they have to close their business for some months and live somewhere simply because there was no business going on. So now, the question now, how do you assist in such a situation? Because now even the insurance companies, they are not willing even for those companies or business to take insurance. What we are talking is the issue of adaptation. Yes, we all prescribe to the issue of adaptation, but it's not as easy maybe as one is talking about it. I tell you the experience we got for the past 2 years. You have places where people have lived for many years and the flood has never been experienced. Now when it comes now, you have now to tell the people maybe this is not the right place to stay. Then you have to find another place. And that is where the issue of skill as also technology, transfer of technology will be required. For example, in Namibia, we have our law, which is environmental management law.